Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Here I'm going to wrap up my series on making weight and the best strategies to lose both water weight and any extra body weight the week of a competition or a meet that you might have coming up. So far I talked about water loading, sodium loading, and gut weight manipulation, as well as active strategies to push water out of your system. So if you haven't seen those, be sure to go ahead and check them out. They should be in the playlist with this video. Now, this video, in my opinion, is just as important as any of the prior videos and topics. And this is something I see happen all the time with lifters that I'm trying to help out with making weight. And that's the idea that most new lifters think that the water cut is the hard part. And that is 100% not true. Because whenever you go through that water cut, and especially if the water cut is very difficult, right? The rehydration after the weigh-in is just as pivotal, right? Without one, you can't have the other. Because if you cut a lot of weight, you weigh in and then you don't rehydrate properly, you'll get to the platform and your performance is going to suffer. And honestly, that's the whole point we're doing this. We're cutting this weight to perform on the platform. So if you're not having the end goal, then everything you've done before is for nothing. And a great example of this is I might see a lifter who cuts 3 kilos of body weight, which depending on your size, that could be a lot or little. For me, that wouldn't be a whole lot. But if you cut 3 kilos of body weight, here's the beauty of the metric system, right? 1 liter of water. So got these bottles here, we'll use this. This is 500 milliliters, so a half a liter right here, but 2 of them would represent a liter, is equal to 1 kilogram. So if you have manipulated off 3 kilograms of body weight with water manipulation, then you need to drink 6 of these bottles or 3 liters of water just to get back in what you lost. And that's assuming 100% efficiency from your body getting that water back in. And we all know our body's not 100% efficient. So really you probably want to drink a little over 3 liters right off the bat to try and expedite that process of getting back to where you were. And that brings me back to the common mistake I see is I'll see lifters cut like 2-3 kilograms and then they weigh in and they've got one of these bottles and they're just kind of sipping on it, and I'm like, how many of those have you drank? And they're like, this is the first one. I was like, how much weight did you cut again? And they're like, 2 or 3 kilos. I'm like, no, you need to pound that right now. And that's how it is. And I'll use this as an example here. I have this for post weigh-ins tomorrow. This is a 5-liter jug of water. If I cut 5 kilos, which I cut a little less than 5 kilos, is like probably 4, closer to 4 kilos. But like I said, that would be assuming 100% efficiency, so I'm going to drink a little bit extra. I know that this is how much water I need to put back into my system as soon as possible, because whenever you weigh in, especially at an international level or any meet that has a 2-hour weigh-in, you've got 2 hours that includes rehydration, refueling, and warming up. So for me, it takes like an hour to get moving and warm up for squat. This has to be in like ASAP, because that only gives me an hour to drink and eat and digest whatever I need to be fully like at capacity. Now that brings me to the other half of the equation. Water is great, but if you've manipulated sodium especially, you need to have sodium supplementation. Just like these advanced Pedialyte packets. I've got some regular ones back here. Of course, some carbs are going to help. So I would pre-mix this stuff in so that you can chug it, and you need that balance of electrolytes to water. If you do just water, then you're gonna be in a bad spot. Now, a couple tricks that I've learned is, especially whenever you're refueling on sodium, you're going to create a state in your intestines where essentially, because of all the sodium in there, they don't want to absorb anything, and that can create basically diarrhea, right? You're going to have an upset stomach. So I like to use Imodium or an anti-diarrheal of some sort, and I try and take this with a tiny bit of water before I weigh in to give it time to process into my system before I'm actually pummeling my system with all this water and the salt. So that's something to keep in mind there. The second thing is, on weigh-in day, especially if you've cut really hard, it is a huge advantage if you can eat before weigh-ins. Because if you are at weight and you're pushing it all the way until weigh-ins, you're having to not only put down water, but also put down food. And I've thrown up in warm-up rooms before, like at the Arnold, for example. I got sick because I was trying to eat and I was trying to get the water back in and the sodium back in that I needed. It's way easier for me if I separate it. That's what I suggest. So go down to the scale well before weigh-ins, maybe like an hour before weigh-ins, something like that, and step on the scale. Hopefully you're under at that point. And then the cool thing is you can take foods and whatever you can hold in your hands and stand on the scale with, then you can obviously eat that, because there's no difference of it being in your hands or in your stomach. So for me, that's where I can start to get some of those calories in, be completely fed before I weigh in, and then after I weigh in, I can focus 100% on hydration and getting my electrolytes back in balance. And then throughout the day, it's just all about maintaining simple carbohydrates and staying hydrated, continuing to pound water, and hopefully by the end of the day, you should be peeing like a racehorse, essentially, because you were so hydrated, ideally. So hopefully that provides some insight. Please do not neglect the rehydration portion of a water cut if you are water cutting. It is essential it's that make or break thing that can contribute to a good or a bad day on the platform. And just understand and accept that it's going to be a miserable hour between weigh-ins and getting warmed up. I think a lot of people look forward to after weigh-ins and they think it's a fun time to eat all kinds of fun food. I see people eat Chinese, and I used to eat zebra cakes. I get it, but it is business time. You can eat all the fun food later. In that moment, you need what your body wants, right? And that's going to be simple carbohydrates, really light, and then electrolytes with as much water as you lost in kilos in liters. All right, so thank you all for tuning in. Let me know if you've done this process. Do you have anything to add? Anything that you may disagree with me on? Always curious to hear what you think. Please like and subscribe as always, and until next time, happy lifting.